What is up, denizens of the interwebs? It's Ours the Chats here coming at you with another video, and this time we are talking about how Sweet Baby Ink seems to finally be dying, and Japan is finally healing and realizing that nobody wants this DEI nonsense. It has been very clear from the get-go that very few people from Japan, especially the game developers, actually want to push any of this DEI nonsense, and instead it's all being done because they think it's what the American modern audience wants. Because they're being told it is by translators, by localizers, and by consultancy groups, such as Sweet Baby Ink. And the one that's really breaking the news right now is the announcement of Dragon Quest's new remaster, where they have reportedly removed all gender options, removed all gendered language, and has made it so that all the characters mostly look the same and play the same, regardless of anything else. According to John F. Trent over at That Black Place, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake Cretor claims American regulations for Square Enix remove male and female gender options and alter character designs. In a recent interview with the creator Yuji Horii, he recently implied that American regulators for Square Enix remove gender and alter characters for the upcoming game. And of course, the game's been facing a massive bit of backlash and a bit of a boycott that is being led by Learning the Law or Manga Lawyer over at X, where he had tweeted that Dragon Quest III art has been censored by ESG Square Enix to cater to the modern audience, no alternative options. And the censorship, as you can see here, is that she has been given modernity cloth, as Hypnotic likes to call it, where they put extra underwear underneath her, well, already existing underwear. They also changed the shape of her shield. I'm assuming that's not to do with ESG, but you never know. They also removed the option for players to choose between male and female characters, and instead used the label of A and B. And I personally hate the label of body type A or B, because it's utterly meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. It still just means male or female, but it's a way to hide the use of the word mostly female. That's the one they mostly want to ignore. And of course, it's just nothing more than another way of pointless pandering designed to pretend to be doing something for virtuous goals when in reality it's merely frivolous. And of course, every single time a game, especially a well-beloved game, gets infested with this DEI nonsense, someone's always going to wake up and realize, you win DEI nonsense, I won't spend any more money on you. And slowly but surely, the majority of the consumers are going to start actually voting with their wallet and refuse to pay out to this DEI stuff that hates the player base at their core. Something that came from culprits, who is the founder of the DEI Detected website, noted that the trolls were also being censored by having their lips removed. On a much more personal and nerdier level, and this one really pisses me off, I must say, is the censorship of the trolls' lips. And I think you can see why they were removed, because, well, the people pushing ESG and DEI are racist. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, oh my god, it's a black caricature. Because Japan has had several characters who have this lip design that have nothing to do with black characters. The only one that really did was the specific genie from Dragon Ball, whose name I can't remember. This all has to do with the fact that these ESG-obsessed people cannot look at an alternate character design like this and not see race. It's why they think that the orcs in Lord of the Rings are racist. It's why they think that the orcs in D&D are racist. They thought that they were black stereotype. So to fight the fact that they thought they were black stereotype, they made them into a Mexican stereotype. Because these people are truly the racists, and it really shows when they are dealing with something like a fictional creature like an orc, where they see the monstrous race as a real race, where no one else does. Now, a lot of this information comes from an interview that the creator Horii did, where he had commented, yeah, there were various regulations in place. Apparently, it's not allowed to show too much skin. If there's too much exposure, the age rating goes up. It means we won't be able to sell it as all ages product. And of course, one major issue with that is this is not showing any more skin than, say, a He-Man costume does. So why is this being censored other than the fact that they're trying to hide the women? And more importantly, this redesign doesn't do a whole lot to actually hide anything. While it does have the modernity cloth with the sports bra and the boxer briefs, it doesn't actually really hide anything because people who are quick looking, it took me a second to actually see it because it's mostly skin toned. And then, of course, people are going to ask, well, if it's mostly skin tone, why does it matter that it's added? Well, it matters because of the reason behind it. It matters because its sole goal is censorship, and censorship is always wrong. If it's so small, and you're going to ask me why I think it matters because it's small and it's hard to see, then why don't you explain to me why it matters to you that it is there? If, once again, it's so small and hard to see, it doesn't make any difference to not include it. The onus is not on the person who wants the original. The onus is on the one who wants it changed. And when they were asked about the various country regulations, Torishima chimed in, under the name of compliance is like an absolute god, an evil disguised as good. There's not such thing as content that doesn't make everyone uncomfortable because beauty and ugliness, good and evil are different for everyone. And it's really weird how it all keeps coming back to what Elon Musk has said during his Disney press conference. How everything keeps going back to that one quote. It's all about people who are obsessed with looking good while doing evil. This is the center of DEI, ESG, and wokeness. It is people who are pretending to be good, virtuous, and advancing society, all while actually stifling and destroying it. And one of them actually describes it as a religious concept from the West, which wokeness and the far left ideology absolutely is a religion. They're obsessed, and they're entirely based on systems such as excommunication that is common in many other religions, and they force absolute compliance, otherwise you get silenced, removed, and forced to conform. Their approach to compliance is really narrow-minded. When selling manga in America, everything had to be characterized by age groups. Doing business with such a ridiculous country is really frustrating. Because of that, Japan gets negatively influenced, and this is true. Japan is being negatively influenced by all the people who are demanding change instead of the actual audience. Because, well, there's a language barrier between the audience and the Japanese company, so they don't really know what we want. They only know what the activist people want. And Horian mentioned when in regards to the gender removal and forcing type A and type B, he asked, I really wonder who's even complaining about this. Because not even I have ever heard anyone complaining about the male and female labels. And I'm sure there are maybe 1% of the population who are, but the fact that 99% of the population has to deal with what upsets the 1% of the population is absolutely ridiculous. The fact that we have to deal with affirming them when they can't deal with affirming us is absolutely insane. And then this story blew up a bit more when Elon Musk had reacted to it on X saying that this is insane. And Elon Musk does this a lot. He'll leave a really nothing of a response to something, but the whole point is Elon Musk is recommended on almost every single person's timeline. Almost everyone sees whatever Elon Musk tweets, and therefore he is the harbinger of awareness. By him just responding to it with something like this is insane, he is bringing this to so many other people's attention. Now, Smash JT broke down this as well with adding a little bit more context. I don't get why we had to censor, it's stupid, no one likes it, but the Westerners and Square Enix are making us do it for the global audience. And of course, there it is, the global audience, the modern audience, the audience that doesn't exist, and the audience that will not pay you money. Manga Lawyer came in again. We are about to witness the death of Dragon Quest due to a combination of American gender insanity cult and the 0 rating. The creators are practically screaming at the top of their lungs, you're killing entertainment, and that is 100% true. When you force ESG, when you force confinement, restriction, and you force compliance, creativity goes first. And that's the problem with ESG, wokeness, and DEI. And I had people argue with me in my Pokemon video about this. When you force these things first, you are putting story second, third, or even fourth. And when you do that, every single part of the product suffers and fails because of consequence. Manga Lawyer continues, but you support artists like Yoshitaka Amano who bend gender. And that's right, it's appealing because it's rare, a beautiful art form. Claiming everyone is the same destroys uniqueness. And that's 100% true. You can like drag, you can like anything like that. You can like gender bending. You know, I really like Haku as a character in Naruto. I really like the movie The Birdcage, which is all about drag queens. I really like a lot of these things that really push the limits on this whole gender expression idea. But the thing is, it has to be the minority, because that is the minority of the population. The problem is, it's being shoved down our throats everywhere it can be, and it's really stifling everything, because you're putting too much emphasis on them, you're overexposing them, and you're causing significant problems with that. Smash JT also adds an addition down here that's an apology to Square Enix. We had initially assumed that it was all Square Enix ethics department doing this, but later information has come out that Sweet Baby Inc. most likely was responsible for this, and it's very clear that Square Enix is trying to hide this. And that leads me to another Smash JT article that really goes to show that maybe the gaming industry is healing and Japan is breaking out of this. It's like Grums always says, 2 years to stop the curve of DEI in gaming. If you just hold on to your money and only enforce what's really good and actively anti-political, then in the next 2 years, you will start to see a return to form. And this article is mostly speculative, but the one thing we know for certain is that Square Enix was taken off of the Sweet Baby Inc. website. Even looking up for myself, you can see Xbox, EA, Valve, Wizards of the Coast, Remedy, all of these studios that are still working with Sweet Baby Inc., but interestingly enough, Square Enix is in fact no longer on this list. And what does that mean for us exactly? We're not sure. For all we know, this could just be Square Enix trying to cover their tracks so it's not obvious, or this could be them actually severing ties and returning to form. And if we're lucky, maybe we'll even get to see them release a patch after the game comes out where they fix this DEI nonsense, where they add back in the terminology that's supposed to be there and the stuff that's supposed to be there. Then, of course, that opens the question of how will this impact their ratings. My guess is that what they might do is they might put out an optional patch that allows it, or an option in the game, so that it's optional and therefore is significantly less tied to scrutiny. But that's just my assumption. I'm really hopeful that this means what I think it means. I think this means that the game industry is healing. I think this means we're going to go back to not having politics forced down our throat. And just to be clear, the problem is politics in general. It is not leftist politics, it's all politics. I would have the exact same problem if it was right-wing propaganda being pushed in the games. And to be clear once more, I understand that there are games that are inherently political. Deus Ex, one of my favorite game franchises, is an inherently political franchise, but it is political within its own world. It is political within its own ecosystem. It is not our politics being put into the game. It is their own It is the game's world's politics that are in the game. And so there is some crossover, but the arguments being made in the game are not the same arguments for real life, and that's where the ESG woke groups cannot differentiate. They think that they have to put the real world politics into the game and cannot create allegory. But I am naively hopeful. I think that we're going to be seeing a return to form soon, with how divers firing the community managers and returning to a buff-based mentality, and groups like Square Enix cutting ties with Sweet Baby Inc. Maybe, just maybe, the gaming industry will go back to the way it should be. So like, subscribe, and let me know down in the comments. Do you think that this is a reason to celebrate? Do you think that this is something to be hopeful for? Do you think we are in fact going back to a return to form where Japan will no longer kowtow to this crazy mentality? Or do you think it's just them covering their tracks so the next time they release a game, it's no longer under scrutiny? Because it's like Endymion reported. A lot of these companies are going to do bait and switches where they promise us non-political games and then sneak it in about halfway through the game once the game can no longer be returned. But that's all I've got for today. Thanks for coming along with me and just looking at this, and hopefully this is just a sign that we are returning back to normalcy.